Hello world, Shelly here, and today I would like to check out a new brand launching in the US in the budget affordable arena. They're called CColor Cosmetics, and they sent me a few of their palettes as PR. This is not a sponsored video. I am not required to make this video. I'm not being paid to make this video. I am making this video because I've been playing around with these palettes for about 2 weeks now, and I think they're worth checking out if you are into affordable drugstore pricing eyeshadow. These are available for sale on Amazon directly through the company. They've got a storefront page on Amazon's website and free shipping. So all of these palettes range from $9 to $16 depending how many pans of product you are getting in them. And a little bit about this company. They are new to the US, but they have been making cosmetics as an OEM manufacturer for the past 15 years internationally. And if you're not familiar with OEMs, OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer, and it's typically a company that is making products that are branded and sold under a different brand than their own. So they've decided that they wanted to create their own brand. They've launched it in the US. They are based in Los Angeles, California, and that is where they're coming from. This is their soft launch. I'm sure they sent their products to a lot of smaller YouTubers. I'm a small YouTuber, so I've tried them out. I'm enjoying them. I think they are on par with a lot of the drugstore eyeshadows that are out there, or things like Bad Habit, you know, the other dupe brands. Now, yes, this is one of those dupe kinds of brands, and I'm not here to have a philosophical argument about whether duping makeup is right or wrong. I have an opinion. I don't mind purchasing it. I don't mind supporting it as long as the dupe company is doing things legally. Now, I have made a blog post about my stance on dupe makeup and why I'm not bothered by it. I will link that down below if you would like to check it out. Feel free to argue amongst yourselves as to whether dupes are good or not. Feel free to turn off this video if you are offended by dupes. That is fine with me. You do not need to watch this. I completely understand. I think everybody should vote with their wallets when it comes to these kinds of products, and if you have a stance one way or the other, buy it or don't. That is entirely up to you, and I support whatever your decision is. But for those of you that are interested to see how these products work, feel free to keep on watching, and let's get into some of these palettes. So these are generally dupes of higher end makeup. And the one thing that I find interesting about CColor is that a lot of their dupes are, you know, the typical suspects are there. They're duping Kat Von D, they're duping Too Faced, they're duping Huda Beauty, but they're also duping some of the indie brands like Laura Lee Los Angeles and Jeffree Star Cosmetics. And I find that interesting because I don't see a lot of dupes of those palettes out on the market. And whether you can't afford those palettes, don't want to spend the money on those palettes, or don't want to support the creators of those palettes, personally, I just think they're overpriced for what they are. Dupes might be an option. So this eye look that I've done is using one of these palettes. It is the Nightfall 18 color Rosette Gold eyeshadow palette. Retails for $15.50. I will link all of these down below with their prices. So if I forget to mention the price, it's down in the down bar. This is an attempt to dupe the Huda Beauty Rose Gold palette, and they've done a pretty doggone nice job. I do not have the Huda Beauty Rose Gold palette to compare it to, but I do have swatches of this palette. You can see that the mattes are not quite as pigmented as a higher end shadow might be. They're a little bit powdery, but they do come across very nicely on the lid. They blend out very well. I've been using these for about 2 weeks, like I said. So the Nightfall palette is the one that I have done this eye look with. If you want to see how I got this eye look, hang in till the end, and I will put the tutorial using this palette at the end of this video. But that is the Nightfall palette. The next one I've got here is the Peach eyeshadow palette, and this is an, oh, there goes the brush. It does come with a dual-sided brush. I haven't used it. It feels like a really flimsy synthetic brush. I usually don't even use the high-end brushes. Oh, and it's already shedding. The brush is probably not great, but the shadows themselves, this is an all-matte eyeshadow palette, and it is an attempt to dupe the Too Faced Just Peachy, the matte palette. And the interesting thing I find is that they even put the shades pretty much in the same order as the original in this case. So here are some swatches of just the Peach palette. And then I've got swatches with the peach palette next to the Too Faced Just Peachy. So the CColor Cosmetics palette is swatched on the top and the Too Faced is on the bottom. Other than some variations in the undertones of some of these shades, they are very, very, very similar. They perform very similarly. The Too Faced are a little bit more creamy, a little more buttery on the eye. You don't get as much powder kick up, but I would say they blend out very similarly, and I had no trouble using the peach version from CColor Cosmetics. The next dupe of a high-end I've got here is the Seaside palette, and you might not know that I own the one this is attempting to dupe. It is attempting to dupe the Urban Decay Beached palette. Now, another cool thing about some of these dupes is that if you can't get the limited edition originals anymore, you can still get these dupes. So the Beached palette, I own this, I have it, it's lovely, except that it's not lovely. My problem with the Beached palette is that the reason you have not seen any tutorials using the Urban Decay one is because it is, on me, it is muddy, it does not look nice. Now, I filmed a video trying out this palette for the first time, and I did a nice 80s inspired eye look, which a lot of you did not like. I like the 80s, but one of my eyes looked worse than the other. It was this side, in that you saw this makeup in Monday night's video, and the one that was all muddy and nasty looking, it was the Urban Decay one. I don't know if I got a dud or what, but you know I love Urban Decay's eyeshadow formula. I have a dozen Urban Decay palettes at least. I mean, 2 of them are hanging up on my wall right there. I didn't have any luck with this palette. This palette I had no trouble with. Everything blends fine. The shimmers perform as expected. These shimmers, they don't have the impact I expect, and they kind of muddy up when you layer them. These shimmers layer beautifully, and you can get the effect that you anticipate when you try to layer 2 shadows. So I am a fan of the Seaside palette from CColor. I had a good experience with that. I know a lot of you did not like the 80s inspired eye look that I did with it, but that is a difference in personal taste because I'm a child of the 80s and I like the 80s, so that is that one. I like the Seaside palette. I think it is better than the Urban Decay. The last eyeshadow palette that I've got from CColor is the Dope palette, and this is the one I've been using the most. I've used this at least 5 or 6 times at this point. It is an attempt at duping the Laura Lee Los Angeles Nudie Patootie palette, and I don't have the Nudie Patootie palette. Not that I watch Laura Lee, and she's gotten herself in some hot water recently, but I had no plans to purchase anything from her brand because I just think it's overpriced. For what it is, it's overpriced. Generally, brands like Laura Lee, they're paying an OEM to make their product, and so this very well could be the same. It's not the same, but this one is attempting to dupe the Nudie Patootie palette. I think it's wonderful. I've used it for simple eye looks. I actually have a couple of videos that I have worn this in. The last foundation review that I did, where I was wearing a red shirt, and I can't remember what foundation I was reviewing, but that one, I was wearing this as a quick little out-the-door eye look. I think this is a wonderful eyeshadow palette. I have had no trouble with any of the shades, and, these are just good palettes for running out the door and doing something that didn't cost you a ton of money. Now, I also got a face palette, and I was wearing it in Monday night's video, and many of you let me know that these shades were not suitable for my skin tone. That's not how you phrased it, but that was the problem. So I had attempted to use the contour shade and the bronzer shade in this palette. This is a powder contour palette. They also have a cream contour palette, and they're not quite right for my skin tone, and they are too dark for my skin tone. So yes, I had bronzer and contour that were too dark on Monday. I apologize if my face offended you. Actually, I don't really. If my face offends you, you should just go watch something else. I'm not trying to offend anybody with my face, is my point. But when you try out a whole lot of new products like I do, they don't all work out on my skin. So this one did not work out for me because of the shades, the lightness to darkness, and the undertone. However, they blended out just fine on me, and I think if these colors work for you, I would have no problem recommending this palette. It did not work for my skin tone. It was too dark and a little bit too warm toned, but other than that, I would recommend it if you can pull off these colors on your skin tone. So that's the overview. If you guys want to stick around and see how I got this eye look, I'm going to show you how I use the Nightfall palette to get this look. Let's check out this Nightfall palette. I have gone in and primed my lids with my MAC Paint Pot in Painterly. Hit pan, yo! Gotta get a new one. I think I'm going to go with some of these rosy kind of shades over here. And yeah, I think that's going to be the plan. So I'm going to start out with this shade here in the crease as my transition. I'm using a Wayne Goss 03. These shadows do kick up a little bit of powder, so be sure to tap them off. Next, I'm going to deepen the crease with this shade right here using my Sigma E25. Keep this just a little bit lower than that last shade. We don't want to lose the transition. I'm going to go into this brownish shade right here and a Real Techniques small shader brush and use this on the outer third or so of my lid. Take what's left into the outer portion of the crease. I'm gonna go a little farther. Maybe half, almost halfway in. I can't decide if I want to go pink or gold, so I'm going to swatch these 3 gold shades. Even though you already saw swatches, but I filmed that on a different day, so I don't remember what these 3 look like side by side. Ooh, okay, that's darker than I want. That's the one in the top left. That, oh, I don't know. Do I want this bronzy gold or do I want this yellow gold? I think I'm going to go with this middle one. So that's this guy right here. This is Dry Brush, Dry Shadow, no Fix Plus, no wetting the brush. I think it looks lovely. Since it's a pretty dark lid, I'm going to go in with just a smidge of this guy as on my finger in the center of the lid. I'm also going to use that as my inner corner highlight, but I'm just going to tap super lightly on the center of my lid, just to brighten it up a little bit. Kind of like that color better. Maybe I'll do that color instead. I just wiped my face with the finger that I swatched with, and that is why I have gold all over my face now. That was not fallout, that was user error. I want just a tiny bit more depth in the outer corner. You don't have to do this. This is just me. I'm going to go in with this blackish shade and my Makeup Geek Outer V brush and just the tiniest little bit right here. Then a Wayne Goss number 20 to blend that out. A little inner corner action. Ooh, you see how bright that is without going on top of that gold? I like the combination. That all happened nicely. I'm going to go back into that very first shade that we used on a Wayne Goss 05 pencil brush and smoke that out on the lower lash line. Then I'm going to use the Morphe M508 and go into that dark brown shade and use that right along the outer lower lash line. And because I can't leave well enough alone, I'm going to dip into that black just a little bit right up at the lash line. Right there. Take my Wayne Goss 16 and just buff over no additional product just to make sure I have no harsh edges on the outside. This palette doesn't have a matte shade that's bright enough for a brow bone highlight on me, so I've just got a Wet n Wild single that I don't even know what the name is because I took the sticker off, and I'm just going to use that up at the highest point of the arch of my brow. I'm going to finish my face with some liner, some mascara, and some foundation. I'll be right back. And here is the finished look. So I finished off my eyes with the Creme Shop Liquid Liner and the Maybelline Lasting Drama liner pencil in copper. My mascara is the Maybelline Total Temptation. On my face, I've got the Makeup Revolution foundation and concealer. This is the full coverage foundation and the Conceal and Define concealer. Bronzer's the True Match Lumi from L'Oreal, and my lip is from Essence. It's the Water Kiss. This is in the shade Aquatic Chic. These are really interesting. They go on like water, like liquid water, but they're very pigmented and they kind of feel like a liquid lip when they're done setting. Interesting. Blush is from the Creme Shop, the C'est La Peach. So what do I think of these CColor products? I like them. I think the eyeshadows are very wearable, very blendable, very, the shimmers have very good payoff. Even dry with a brush, they have even better payoff with a finger. That is true of so many eyeshadows on the planet. The matte shadows are a little bit powdery. You have to be a little bit careful to tap off your brush, but they blend out very nicely on the lids, and I've used all of these palettes at least twice, and in a couple cases more than that. The Dope palette I have used probably 5 or 6 times at this point. I like them. I think they're worth the money. They all range from $9 to $16, depending how many pans of shadow you're getting, and I think they're totally worth it. I would absolutely recommend these if you're looking for inexpensive versions of some of the more high-end eyeshadow palettes. I would say these are better than a lot of the drugstore eyeshadows that I have tried. There are very few drugstore eyeshadows that I like. I like Wet n Wild. I'd say these are comparable to Wet n Wild. These are better than most of the Maybelline, Revlon, L'Oreal eyeshadow palettes that I've tried. I don't generally like drugstore eyeshadows. I like Wet n Wild. I like BH Cosmetics. I would say these are comparable. So do I recommend them? Yeah, I do. For what they are, you're not going to get a Pat McGrath quality of eyeshadow out of a $10 palette, but for your $10, I think you get a very wearable, easy to apply eyeshadow. None of these have irritated my skin. I'm a fan. They're on my list. There you have it. My first look at the CColor Cosmetics palettes. If you enjoy these sort of first looks at new brands, let me know. Give me a thumbs up down below. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to geek out over makeup with me. I appreciate your time, and I hope you all have an awesome day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.